Imagine a time in your life when, due to a catastrophic accident, or perhaps just to old age, you can no longer do anything for yourself. You're away from home, from the people you love, and you're at the mercy of the people around you to take care of your most basic needs. You may be young and healthy now, but someday this could be you. And at the present time, I may have just described a grandmother, a grandfather, or someone else that you love. Now imagine yourself in this position, needing to go to the bathroom, or worse, not being able to control your most basic functions. You've been self-sufficient your entire life, and now you're lying in your own excrement, waiting for someone to clean you up, to restore just a little bit of your lost dignity. And still you wait, and you wait. Your skin's starting to burn from the acids in your waist, and you're still waiting, and you have no idea when someone's going to come and help you. My name is Carol Perkins, LPN, and I've described a scene to you that I frequently have come in contact with in the last few years. And sadly, I've just described a situation that's prevalent in many nursing homes across these United States. And my belief is this can be traced directly to insufficient staffing policies that are held in these facilities. I'm sorry. All right. Now, many of these places are much more concerned about their bottom line than they are giving the people who are their residents adequate care. And I base this not just on my own experience, but I've worked with lots of nurses who have worked in many different facilities, and I hear the same story over and again. My daughter was a CNA in a facility that was a private facility, and one of the ones who have the most sterling reputation in this area, and she encountered some of the same things, even there. As I said, the quality of care, I believe, can be directly related to the ratio of nursing staff. And when I say nursing staff, I mean primary care, not just nurses. More even than the nurses, the CNAs are just vital in good care for people in a nursing home, because they're the ones that take care of people's direct needs. Their feeding, their bathing, their dressing, their personal needs. Those are all attended to mostly by the CNAs. And you find so often that there is a dearth of help on in these places to actually accommodate the needs of the people who live in them. What are the standards nationally? Is there a law? And that's something that I really have been concerned about and looked into and talked to various people about. I've talked to DONs from different nursing homes. Long-term care is the second most regulated industry in the United States, behind only nuclear power. That's the only industry that it has more regulations. But the regulations aren't meeting people's needs, and they're not enforced so often as laws. The national standard reads that these places have to have sufficient nursing staff to provide nursing services to maintain the highest level of physical, mental, and psychosocial well-being of the residents. That is the national standard, but states actually decide what this means. As of 2003, 36 states had specific regulations that actually denoted what ratio that had to be. Now, that's not always depicted in terms of numbers. Frequently, it's depicted in terms of nursing hours. That's not a good thing, because the people that own these homes, who are more interested in the bottom line than they are their residents, can then manipulate those hours on paper. They don't really have to staff appropriately just by the hours. What is really needed is an actual physical ratio of per shift number of primary care people to the residents themselves. The only place I found in my research that had an actual numerical ratio that fit the standard that is the most optimum is Maine. And they had a 1-to-5 ratio on days, 1-to-10 on evenings, and a 1-to-15 on nights. These ratios are consumer minimum staffing standards, and they were come up with by a team of nurses that had much experience in long-term care. And they've been in place for several years. They are not laws, they are recommendations, but legislatures and people in government positions have recognized that these are the optimum standards. And again, it is day 1-to-5 residents, evening 1-to-10, night 1-to-15. Very few times do you find that the case. In Indiana, we have no minimum staffing requirements. We do have suggestions for hours, but they're mostly for comparisons between homes. There's nothing that's strictly enforced. I've seen as many as 25 to 1 on nights. I've seen as many as, not too much less than that, on evenings. And when you're dealing with older people who are debilitated, acuity, and that means the seriousness of their condition, plays a huge part. If you have a whole hall full of incontinent people, then 2 people is totally impractical. If you have a whole hall of ambulatory people, that means they can get up and walk and they're able to use the restroom. That's reasonable, but most times in a nursing home, that is not the case. More personnel to these people is not cost effective. The owners, I have talked to just a local DON who, she's not a DON anymore, actually now she's a professor at Ivy Tech, but she was a DON for years, and she said the owners fight this legislation because it's not cost effective for them. Their success is determined by their nursing hours, and nursing personnel are often expected to clock out for lunch and yet finish on time and still somehow finish all of these tasks that need to be done for these people in an optimum time so that they keep their dignity. My solution is that people need to rise up and, like the Gray Panthers back in the 70s, who were older people who had a coalition and fought things that directly related to older people. You know, people need to come to get behind this whole idea of raising standards and particularly ratios in the states and making it a law. Implementing those basic standards, the 1 to 5, 1 to 10, 1 to 15 as law that is enforced when surveyors, who are the people who come and examine nursing homes to see if they're meeting standards, when surveyors come in, this should be something that is surveyed for and is demanded that it be met. How can you change this? You can write your congressman. And writing your congressman, you can tell him that you want him to examine this whole idea of nursing home ratios and to raise legislation, that you feel that it's important. You can question the criteria that they use to examine nursing homes and demand that when surveyors go in, that this is something that they survey for and that it is a law that has to be enforced. And lastly, check on your relatives or friends often, those that are in nursing homes. Ask questions of the personnel if you're concerned. Don't forget your loved ones, because there's no substitute for your presence there and your checking on them. Don't ever let out of sight be out of mind. No one can fight for your loved ones better than you can. And when you feel that there's something wrong, you should raise your voice, because it's only in raising our voices that we're going to change things. And when you go to these nursing homes and you see people whose needs are not being immediately met, and you see the nurses and CNAs struggling and running around, scurrying around trying to get everything done, try to have mercy on them, even if you feel that things aren't happening in a timely fashion. Because frequently the problem is that there's just simply not enough hands. Lastly, please realize that the problem exists, most of all, and it needs to be changed. And know that the life that this affects could be not only your loved ones, but someday in the not too far off future, it could be your own. Thank you.